what's in this? All right, where you get this from? I don't know, I just put it together. That's how she does. That's how she does. You know, and she's an extremely, how would you say it? You know how when someone's a natural psychiatrist? That's Dr. Nagi. It's natural to her. You know, she can do human analysis like that. So just keep up with her. You know, I'm grateful for it because it takes a lot of load off my shoulders. Anyway, any more questions you all? Go ahead, sis. Give her the mic.
Hello. I'm new, very new.
Yes.
But I've been following you for like a year, as I explained.
You've been following you.
I've been following.
No, you've been following you. You've been listening to some things I've been saying.
Yes.
You've been following you because it resonates with you.
Yes.
Because you recognize that we're family.
Yes.
Yes, go ahead.
And I take that time while I'm sitting in the plantation, and I know the master is not watching, so I take the time to look at the videos. So today I was looking at Sovereignty Part 1, and you made a statement. You said that Islam is science, and Islam is not the religion.
All right, now, this is what, so to make it very clear.
Okay.
The masses of people generally don't get religion. Religion is law, order, and governmental principles, and Gnostic philosophies, really. Religion essentially is universal, meaning that, like say if I give you a geometric equation, or mathematical equation, and it is presented in a different linguistic form. The variable will not be at all, or if at all, minimal and more by mistake than by fact, because truth is universal. So it is with religion. Now, so Islam is actually science. All right, it's actually science of life. Now, when people will say, often you hear people say religion is the way of life and then don't give you the science of the way of life. So they've told you nothing. You know, Islam is, or what you call Moorish science, is a knowledge of the workings of nature and a study of the workings of nature. A study of known phenomena of nature's works, whether you're dealing with vibration, gender, etc., reciprocity, or duality. These are universal principles. Then you have what you would call sectal creeds. And this is where the prophets, like when you study like Prophet Muhammad, Isa, who we call Yeshua, Jesus, you will see that there's universal principles that don't change or pass away. And when you study true religion, it's harmonic with humanity and with nature. It has nothing, for the most part, to do with belief systems that are promoted in the name of religion. The masses usually get belief systems that have no root, foundation, or function, but keeps them busy and keeps those who are perpetrating it rich and wealthy. True religion teaches you to live with nature, teaches you how to live with nature. Teaches you how nature works, meaning like if say you present your children, say you're busy, and you present your children to the mother behind you, who's a religious woman, right? If she's really religious, it doesn't matter what your so-called religion is, she would not clash. Meaning that if you're dealing with someone who's really religious, like say I'm Muslim, and my son is being babysit by this woman who's Christian, as an example, claims to be Christian, right? If she's a Christian Scientist, she would be using the same principles that I'd use. Or she's Orthodox, I wouldn't have to be worried about her feeding my baby pigs.
Right.
But if she's a believer, she'd be eating all kinds of stuff and do it to my baby too. So that's dangerous. And then people will be debating about what they're religious. That's not religion, that's dogma. And it's not unlike learning the refined truth between gold and silver coin, which by agreed principle of governing law is money, and then the private commercial paper set up by the Jesuit order to enslave humanity called fiat, but yet falsely called the dollar, which it isn't. It's actually a debt note of their private corporation. And then some people not knowing the difference or don't know the refined argument. So it is with dogma and religion. So when you look at our people collectively and the problems that we have socially, politically, economically, and notice that there's very little cure of the problems that are in our community, but yet predominantly our people are talking about their religious, talking about their spiritual. Anyone who's honest knows that our major problem is that we're really not what we're claiming to be. We say things in the name of lords, not knowing the lords that we're talking about, and suffer as a result of policies of those lords. But a political scientist knows that the lords that are really suffering us are actually called the Lord Governors of London. And so when these people are preyed upon, that's P-R-E-Y, they think they're praying and not knowing they're being preyed upon under the secret treaty of Verona by the Lords of London. But they're confident because they think they know what they're doing.
Come on with it.
This is the difference between religion and dogma, money and fiat.
Wow.
The refinement that we're talking about in general is getting the people to know the semantic difference between the prima facie, that appears to be real, and the de jure, that is indeed real. The real self and the artificial personalities they put upon you. The real living, breathing, sentient man and woman, and the person of the corporation set up by the dark priesthood to put the world in darkness in order to bleed you of all your economics. And whereas the average person may not see it, a person who's religious sees it immediately, including all priesthood, but all won't speak up because most of them got their hands in the poorest pocket. You know, so I'm saying that to say this. We're learning discernment. We're talking discernment. And once in a while, and hopefully more than it does not, it resonates with you. And it encourages you, and that's us plural, to challenge your thoughts on things that you used to let go by. And in doing so, you start recognizing that we've been played. And people are playing us. And the other unfortunate thing you'll see is many people, all of a sudden you start waking up, they get upset with you. They're supposed to be your friends.
That's right.
They're supposed to love you.
That's right.
Which shows you how dirty things really are.
Wow.
So again, like I say, you're not following me, you're following you. All I do is agitate the silt on the bottom of the stones on the stream and give you a mirror. That's all I do. I'm an agitator. I talk to you. Islam. But I thank you, and I hope, hope we do some good.
Yes.
Hope we do some good.
Wow.
So a couple comments.
This is a comment. It says, tell Taj we love him for all he does to uplift us. Sister Lovely B. Stafford says this. Tell Taj we love him for all he does to uplift us with facts. No matter what they say about him, he speaks truth. I have researched his info and it is all truths.
Islam, hopefully that's so good.
See, Sister Najwa Varanik Hawa'el says, does Taj have any thoughts on the ground plan 1904 map at the museum at St. Louis, Missouri?
Which map? They're talking about period?
The ground plan 1904.
I'd have to see it too, because I'm familiar with many Mapamundi, because there's a particular issue of the north-south that she's making reference to.
I don't know, maybe she'll come back on and say
The
something.
size of the continent's placements, before or after the cocoa plate shift.
I didn't know.
I mean, is there anything more specific?
Hopefully she's still
I found something about
on there, yeah, 1904.
I found something about it briefly.
Yes, share with us.
It was just a quick reference by looking at that. It's at the Library of Congress, and it's oddly taking long to load up, even with the Wi-Fi here. At the Library of Congress, it's saying that the ground plan of 1904 is, it actually has some pictures here too, Brother Taj. It hasn't loaded yet, so I'll just yield the floor until some words pop up.
All right.
You know,
Yeah.
so Islam.
Because also when you go into the Library of Congress, you know, if you start digging, you're going to find multiple maps in Mapamundi. So you have to be specific. Because, yeah, because you have what you would call published print time, then you have construct print or construct exposure. So you know, like say for instance, they may show you a map that may have a print date on it, 1904, but the map itself may be at another cycle.
Right.
So that whenever you're talking Mapamundi, you'd have to be specific.
Well, while waiting for that, just a
I got
comment.
it.
Brother Yusuf Nasser Bey says, only you can save you by knowing and loving you. Slow down and look, study self.
Yes.
Just be you. And you cannot know this if you live and think as a Negro, meaning knowing nothing of who you are, waiting to be saved. When all around you, our babies, fathers, and mothers died by the hands of others in our own land. Why? We have been lied to as a people, and yes, some are afraid to let go of it, and not everyone will. We must uplift each other. No more playing the victim, Islam,
Yes,
or the
Islam.
violations will continue. I will advise anyone listen, but look for self. It's the only way. I self-flow, a master of self, upright and in honor. Our biggest sin is we honor not our own nation, Islam.
Yes, Islam. And like Durali says, you know, to respect, uplift, know, and proclaim your free national government in name and in principle. You know, and so you must know the history in order to do so. And this is again why the European modifies literature, or what they do, what the expurgatorious practices. And that Mataoaka lesson is apropos to that very principle, because that's a current demonstration of current events to show you how it is done, how they bury, and yet very few people would or have really questioned it. And so they continue to even teach their children and take their children to movies about Pocahontas, but not telling the true history that she's really Muslim and that she's really from the Powhatan Confederation, and an empress and a potentess and a princess, you know. And so the people don't even know her name, don't know that she's Muslims. You know, they think they're, you know, Indians going around loincloth going woo, 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 and all this stuff. You know, I mean, and the parents allow this foolery to go on, but they're going to tell you about Jesus and God and Allah. You know what I mean? They don't even know their current history. and this European is still in their estate right in front of their faces. And then half of them don't even relate to Mataoaka. You know, they think that there's some different people. You know what I mean? No different than when they go, you know, in Queen Khalifa's land. You know, they'll see they got murals all over Khalifa's land of her with her, you know, with her locks, etc. Just like you, all over the place. And they don't even know. They look, oh, look at that sister's mural. That's Khalifa. You know, and they don't know that California is her land area. Now she was one of the last warriors, you know, keeping the European in check. You know, but yet you start talking about these people here and they'll start talking about Africa on the other side. They don't even know their history here. Current events. They're going to tell you about, see, in ancient Kemet, their peanut butter sandwiches wasn't like they are today. They were shaped like pyramids. You know, our people are full of doo-doo. They don't even, you know current stuff. They're going to tell you about the ancient world. But I'm appreciating you. And, you know, and the greatest appreciation is when confidently, you know, our little boys and little girls don't grow up with this naive nigger mind that suffers our people. That's right. You know, and the dead culture that we've been practicing, claiming it to be civilization, and all we've seen is death, misery, broken families, and drugs and jail, while aggravatingly and falsely talking about salvation with our hypocritical selves, and no one challenges us with the BS that we keep perpetrating in the name of religion. You know, good brother.
All right, Islam.
Islam.
Getting back to it was Sister, what was it? It was Veronique Howell. I know it was something else at the beginning of Appalachian, but when she was asking about the ground plan, on the Library of Congress, LOC.gov website, it's really just a picture, right?
Yeah.
But there's some things that stand out from doing a little bit of map research,
Yeah.
and I noticed that in the northeast corner of the map, I'm gonna show you first, and then maybe I can show the family, right?
Yes.
But the compass is the correct way according to Mapamundi,
Yeah.
with the south upwardly.
That's what I'm.
Alrighty. And in the northeast corner, it actually has the top half of a tree of life.
Avatar.
Oh, yeah, this one, yeah.
You see it?
Yes. Oh, yes.
It's right there in the northeast corner.
Yes.
You got the shown right there. That's the northeast.
Yes.
So there's the ground plan. You got Ground Plan, Louisiana
Yeah.
Purchase Exposition, St. Louis, Missouri World's Fair, 1904.
Oh, yeah.
Now, I don't know much about it, but in viewing it, it is...
Not just that, but now this with you. All right. Now, if you really pay attention to this, if you look closely and you look at the metrology, the layout, you will also start recognizing hidden within this designs.
The endocrine system.
Yeah, not just that. Tree of life, space travel, integrated. If you look at all of the integrations, you will see the different signs.
What's the link you're looking at for our Facebook?
Okay, I will share that actually,
Ground
because
plan.
this is a pretty interesting
Yes,
map.
yes, it is.
I didn't expect it to be so,
Yes.
like,
That's
truthful.
another reason why I was asking whether you're talking about the north-south, east-west issue. Because you already know with the Europeans, they flipped the world upside down.
That's right.
Well, some people were saying, their response was they thought it was the map that showed all the countries.
Oh, no.
No, that's called, what's that
The
map?
King
That's-
Alfred's plan?
The one
No, that's a
in
ground
Africa.
plan of an area.
Okay, this is this.
But let me present this. Write this down, metrology. And write that down and understand that all of the layouts of the territories,
Metrology?
yes. If there's any interest, tell them start comparing it with star charts.
Right. Ephemeris.
Yeah. Because it's not only going back to the culture, but it's also representative religion, because when you know religion, you're not talking a bunch of gibberish emotionalism. You're actually talking how things work. For instance, like if I came to you and you're a priestess, right? You would look at me and we just do what we do, but you immediately look at me, you look at my bone structure, look at how I walk, and you might just say, oh, yeah, when you were home, you know, like the doctor says, and like Sister Eartha would say, or like the ambassador would say, when you go home, make sure you get some zinc, magnesium. Because you look at your body, look at your skin, that's religion. That is religion. You know, knowing as an example, like say when little girls growing up and they're like 9, 10, 11, 12, when they're starting to grow into young women and everything, and then you're being a matriarch teaching them, and then you look at one of them and you tell them the truth on how their cycles work with the moon and Venus. Not just the moon and Venus. And how it works in nature. How to build babies. What salts are used. You talk about the 12 salts of the earth. You talk about the strengths, the potentials for illness and sickness based on the gestation of the child in the womb, what the tendencies are. And you would also remind them of the certain salts to eat at certain times and certain foods as a natural principle of balance, as natural operations of things. That's religion. And we would go to, say, China, and it wouldn't be any, language would be different, the principles would not be different. Because it's based on a knowledge of law, of nature. And I'm saying that to say this. Religion, truthfully, has little to do with belief systems. Dogma has everything to do with belief systems. Do you understand? And they'll change up with the wind because they never work. So people, after they get tired, they abandon it and find a new belief. It's sort of like a new drug. People who really understand this, and I think it's a little bit unfair in it, like you'll see serious scholars will say religion is an opiate for the masses. What they should say is dogma is the opiate for the masses, but the masses don't get religion. That's the problem. In other words, religion has gotten a bad name because it's been presented to people when they haven't been getting it. They've been getting dogma. And so they look at the failures of dogma and they look at the opportunists that proliferate the halls of houses in the name of dogma, but who are claiming religion. And they've been getting away with it. When the fact of the matter is counterfeit. So I'm only saying that because I think too often, religion is condemned when the people don't get religion. So it's kind of like they're assuming that they're getting it and they don't get it. And meanwhile, if you talk to, say, imams, rabbis, masons, PhDs, and you go into the Kabbalistic knowledge, there's no dispute. But then when you come out to their little houses and homes and little clubs and mosques and churches and synagogues, their whole conversation changes. They it's sort of like somebody going into character, an actor or an actress getting into character. It's sort of like that. And a scholar recognizes that immediately, where someone caught up in belief system think it's spirituality. And a scholar knows that person is just fake, and they got something for sale, But when we were here past week, one of the things that I suggested, and I suggested to you too, is get one of the books that all PhDs have, all people that study religion in general, Kybalion.
Yeah, I was looking for it, but
It's on the drive.
I think I emailed you about
Is-
that.
It's on the
Right.
See the
drive.
brother right there?
Okay.
If you got at least a 32 gig thumb drive, it's about 19.4 gigs of information, and that's included in it.
Okay.
Now, and that would be a key lesson to slay naivety. But you'll also see correlations that would share with you comprehensions of the Bible, Quran, and other holy books in their scientific and more true state. Meaning that the beliefs aren't necessary. Knowledge is.
Sister Najwa wrote something very interesting. She wrote dogma versus, she said dogma spelled backwards is am God. Dogma spelled backwards, many were taught backwards.
Yes, because that's what it's called, deceit. Like the prophets would say, they come as angels of the light when they're actually the angels of darkness. Or they come claiming to bring peace, but they're really peace breakers, i.e. imposters. They claim to be Americans, they're really Europeans.
Mm-hmm.
You get the whole point? They're stealing your birthright. And this is another, as an interim, because, time is short. With Rebecca, when you look at Rebecca and Isaac going to Allah and say, can you hook Rebecca up, because she's barren. This is the book of Genesis 25. And you notice that, and Allah says to Rebecca, says, you have in your womb 2 different nations, 2 different manner of people. In the genetic function, the average person would say, no, she got twins. But Allah says she has 2 different nations, 2 different manner of people. Then go into the book and look up amalgamation, and then you'll see what that story is all about. You look at the movie Dr. Moreau's Island, you'll see what that story is all about. If you look at that old movie, for those of you a little older, when we were little, had a movie called Rosemary's Baby with Mia Farrow. That's tell you,
Rosemary.
because you're Rosemary. And that's the real deal.
We had a
And then you understand why the Europeans take Enoch and other books, the book of infants, the book of Mary 1 and 2, why the priesthood have it, but why the people don't have it. And most of the people, except for the reverends and the people in the priesthood, most of the masses don't even know the books, never seen them. But yet people who got the degrees who teaching dogma in the name of religion got them books. And the real deal is, if you get them to the average person, these institutions would collapse tomorrow, because they would recognize that these people are not only unqualified, they're extremely dishonest. And they don't love no Jesus, they don't love no Allah, they don't love no Muhammad. Most of them are opportunists, sucking off the poor and dressing well at the expense of the poor.
Brother Taj,
Yes,
the books of Mary, is that in Apocrypha?
the book of Mary 1 and 2, and the book of infant.
Is it in
It's
Apocrypha?
also, those are some of the books that are missing from the Septuaginta,
Indeed.
when the priesthood were charged to translate it into what is known today as the Bible. The priests have it, the masses don't. Now, for the masses, some of them hear about the 7 books of Moses and think that that's it. Oh, no, it ain't. No, it ain't. And this is back to the discomfort that a lot of people have that have titles with us, because we tell people stuff that they pay thousands of notes for these degrees in their Masonic orders and their secret societies, and they get all these titles, and they come out and start perpetrating belief systems on the masses to control them and taking finance from them, getting wealthy, and talking about Jesus got a bank account at Chase Manhattan and all, and these adults even believe them for years, denying their own children and their families, you know, and thinking that these people love the Lord. These people are thieves, and they're criminals, and the world suffers for them. You know, it does. And no one wants to challenge them because they always run around talking about Jesusness and Allah and Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, talking about Prophet Muhammad. You know what I'm saying? You don't leave your dogs alone. I'm serious. And, you know, and they've been getting this way with this stuff for generations, and our people are suffering. Our babies are confused. You know, the very priests, you know, that be claiming to love these children, be raping them and eating them and all this kind of stuff, and then blaming the devil and all this stuff. And no one challenges them because they say Jesusness, Allah, and everything, wealthy off the poor. The great lesson is Yahshua when he's arguing with the priests who are doctoring up the law and those who are stealing the widow's pennies. As that priesthood, they're full of crap. Anyway, thank you all for coming back to the House of Reawakening Minds. And I want to thank the ambassador and the empress for sharing some time with us.
Thank you.
Trust we're going to share some more time and get some work done. Thank you all for listening. Thank you all for supporting the House of Reawakening Minds. And for those of you, and I know she's tired because she'd be working it, I'm telling you. I thought I was a workaholic. I think she's worse than I am. Anyway, because we be up there working and looking at each other's eyes and going like this, but we be getting it done, don't we? Yeah, so give Dr. Naila a hand, y'all. And remember the house. And keep the house rolling. Remember yourselves, remember your children, and remember that the priesthood knows that the masses don't get religion. The masses get dogma. The priesthood knows that when we're talking the Gnostic sciences, that's religion. And the philosophies, that's religion. The priesthood knows that spirituality is breath and the art of breathing. Not something else. Breath and the art of breathing. And it is high time that the priests start telling the people the truth and start actually helping them to develop and to grow and get their hands out their pockets.
Yes.
And with that, I say good night.
Islam.
Peace and love.
Peace and love.
It's my copy.
How many copies you got, Dr. Nail?
Oh, I got a couple.
Look, if you go down to the bottom,
When you started talking about it,
archive.org, you go in here. When I tell you, I found from 1730.
somebody that went to
You see what I'm saying? On this joint. So.